welcome back. Alright, so to continue on, we're going to create a curve for our train to follow along. I'm going to just make a NURBS circle. So I'm going to come up to create, go to my NURBS primitives, and I'm going to create a circle. I need to start by scaling this up, and it really is just a circle. Let's make it pretty big. You can do this just as a circle. You can make this into an oval. I'm going to show you how to make it into an oval real fast. So similar to polygons, NURBS have control vertices. So if I right click on the circle, vertex here in the marking menu becomes control vertex. And I can just edit these a little bit. I'm going to select those guys. Do be aware that if you're trying to select control vertices, say like that one that's really close to that joint, selecting joints supersedes selecting anything else. So if I do try to like add the selection in like that, and you see how that joint is inside of my bounding box there, that joint is going to get selected first. So that's not, but be aware of that. And so I'm just going to kind of scale these up in this direction. Maybe I'll scale them out to kind of make that more oval, and then those two last control vertices, I got to be careful to just get that one. So shift select that one. I can scale that out as well to make this a little more oval. So however you like. I'm going to play with this a little more. Make yourself a track to go around. That's how I want mine. I like that. And then let's go back, right click into object mode, and let's name this circle. So it's going to be called my track. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a special kind of IK handle to control our joints here. And to do that, I want to not see my polygons for just a little bit. So here in the viewport menu, I'm going to go to show and then turn off polygons. And you can see that the keyboard shortcut for that is Alt or Option 2. Turn that off. And so to make this, it's called an IK spline. I'm going to start by making the spline for this joint. So I'm going to come up to Create, go to Curve Tools, and I need to make a CV curve. So I'm going to use a CV curve tool. And now starting at the front of my train, I'm going to hold V to snap 2 points. And I'm going to add a control vertex, that's what CV stands for, add a CV on each of these joints here. So go all the way to the end, and I'll press enter. I'm going to rename this curve to Spline. Now, to set up the IK spline, I need to come up to Skeleton on my main menu, or in the rigging menu. And then there's this Create IK Spline Handle. Go to the options there. Let me reset this so that this would look like what you have. The only thing we need to change here is to turn off this auto generate curve, because we just made that curve. This can make one for you, but I wanted to have more control over that spline. So turn that off. I can close these settings. And then I'm going to select my first joint. So I'm going to click on the first joint. I'll click on the last joint, and then I'll zoom in to the middle of this bone here, and I'm going to select the curve. And you'll see that that works because this IK handle pops up in the outliner. Everything kind of turns this kind of like dark orange color, and then we are ready to go. One way you can really tell, and you don't have to do this, but if you select your spline and go into those control vertices, you can select that control vertex and move that around and see how the joints move. So now that joint is trying to follow that curve. But if that IK handle shows up, you're most likely good to go. Alright, so now let me bring back my polygons, Alt 2. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is on our spline, our pivot is here at the front of our train. I want it to be in the middle. So I'm going to go to Modify, and I'm going to center that pivot. And now I can go. I can attach my spline to the circle and have it move and use the circle as a motion path. So to do that, I'm going to go select my spline, and then Control or Command select the track curve, come up to Constrain, go to Motion Paths, and Attach to Motion Path. Make sure you go to the options because I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So it will animate the spline curve traveling along the track curve, either for, you can do it for the time slider, so whatever your time slider settings are down here, you can tell it when to start. You can set custom start and ends, but for this we're just going to use the time slider. The next thing is down here under front axis. We need to tell it which way to orient the spline here. And so the train is facing along the Z axis, so we need to swap that over to Z. And then the rest of this is okay, because our up is up here in the up axis is our Y axis here, so it's going kind of the normal up and down direction. So I can just go ahead and click Attach here. And you'll see that now, if I scrub along the timeline here, it follows along that track all the way around till we get to the end here at the end of my time slider. But it's not like curving around that track. So there's one more constraint that we have to do. So I'm going to select my spline again, Control or Command select the track curve, come back up to Constraint, Motion Paths, and then there's a Flow Path Object. Go into the options there. And the main one that we can play around with is this, the divisions. So I have this set to 100. That's pretty good. This is something that if you don't like the result you get, you can undo and and then go back into your flow path options and change that, and then just kind of play around with it until you get the result that you like. So I'm going to hit flow there. You can see that front part curved, and now when we do this, it actually curves around our path here. So all the way back. A couple of things that you may notice, and this is just kind of how Maya works, is that here in the beginning that our last car is off, and that's because when we made these curves, to us it looks like it's a full circle, but to Maya it says that that point there is the start of that curve. And so there's actually like two control vertices there, one to say, hey, this is where I start, and then one to say that it ends. And they might actually be connected, but Maya still sees them as, like, it sees more than what we can. And so it's not going to connect here at the very beginning or at the end. See how that shoots off. To fix that, we would have to have a curve that goes kind of on itself twice. So it would overlap like that. But again, this is really good for a first go, and so I'm pretty happy with that. Again, make sure you save your work. And then in the next video, I'll be doing some lighting and render out a final render of this. So see you then.